Very briefly, again, want to welcome everybody to the May 11th Lunch and Learn that we have here as part of the 2022 Lunch and Learn series. Pocosin is our host today, and I'll turn it over to Charity Gavaza here in just a moment with Pocosin so she can introduce our speaker. Just as a reminder, the entire series is being sponsored by all of the peninsula localities, including York County, Williamsburg, James City County, Hampton, Gloucester County, Pocosin, and the city of Newport News. So with that, I will turn it over to Charity, and she can introduce our guest speaker, Jim Carroll.
Well, welcome everyone. I'm Charity Gavaza, work in economic development for the city of Pocosin, and we are the host today. Hopefully everyone is familiar with the fact that the Lunch and Learn series are a consortium of the localities in the peninsula, and that we take turns hosting every month to present this series to all of our small businesses, our home-based businesses and small businesses. And what I'd like to do is introduce Jim Carroll, who is both Executive Director of the SBDC, the Small Business Development Center of Hampton Roads, and Vice President for Small Business of the Hampton Roads Chamber, which is located in Norfolk and affiliated with the state, regional, and our local Chamber of Commerce. Jim has a long career, and I can't begin to present all the different things he's done, but he has been a member of this community and involved with small business development in one capacity or another for many years. And unfortunately, we are going to be losing him at the end of this month as he is going to retire, although he does have a new replacement coming in. And if you have never availed yourself of the services of the Small Business Development Center, there's a number of different ways you can access it online. They have ongoing seminars. They have so much. I'm sure Jim will tell you more about it. But without any further introduction, other than he's been a good friend to all of us, all the localities and small businesses. And here is Jim Carroll.
Here's Johnny. Well, Charity, thank you very much for the introduction, and good afternoon, ladies and gentlemen, and welcome to the seminar. These seminars are absolutely essential to help small businesses succeed. The main reason being, you have a chance to sit down and talk to experts in the various fields, and you get to learn information that you may not have had access to before. And hopefully today, this will be one of those things that takes place. So what I'm going to do now, pardon me, is share my screen, and we'll go ahead and get things kicked off. When I say knowledge is a business Achilles heel, that's not only for home-based businesses, but it's also for small businesses as a rule. You see, you can take the entire business continuum, if you will, and you can divide it in half. You have the front of the house and the back of the house. The front of the house is where you deliver the goods and services, where you sell your product, where you offer your intellectual information, whatever you have to sell to a customer. And you are, without a doubt, the #1 expert when it comes to the product that you are selling or the information that you are providing. The back of the house is all of the things you have to do and have to know along the lines of legal issues, HR issues, marketing issues, accounting issues, advertising, sales, the whole 9 yards. You really have a ton of information you have to be cognizant of, and you have to be current with in order for your business to survive. Many, many times people will make decisions based on faulty information, and that usually leads to the businesses failing. So what we're going to do is talk about primarily one such program that we at the SBDC network just purchased, and we'll and we'll mention a couple of others as we go through. But before we get into things, I have to give you our paid advertisement, and that we're part of the Virginia SBDC network, which is a partnership with the Small Business Administration, George Mason University, and the Hampton Roads Chamber, and Thomas Nelson Community College over on the peninsula. The views you are going to get are mine and do not represent the various organizations that I named. And I'll be giving you both information and I'll be giving you opinion. And I will make sure that I differentiate between the two. So everybody talks about small business. And when I first came here in 1997, I was told small businesses are mom and pops. They're just small. They don't really amount to anything. And why are we even worried about them? Well, the Small Business Administration did some studies and they found out that the 4 congressional districts that comprise the Hampton Roads area and beyond, you can take a look at the statistics. 93% of all employers are considered small businesses. Over 50,000 people working for them and over 50,000 businesses and over 514,000 employees who take home wages and payroll of $21 billion every year. And additionally, we are seeing home-based businesses increasing exponentially, primarily because of the pandemic and a variety of other reasons. But people are now moving back to their homes, out of their offices. In some cases, they're working hybrid businesses. In other cases, they're just going off and starting on their own. And once you go into the home-based business arena, the biggest problem that any home-based business owner has is they lose that sense of connectivity. Melissa Davidson up at York County Economic Development did a fantastic study on this. And that's what was the genesis of bringing this program together, bringing home-based businesses together on a monthly basis by Zoom calls, on a quarterly basis or semi-annual basis, in person if at all possible, and let them know that they are part of a network and give them the opportunity to meet other people, to learn other things, and move forward with their business. In some counties, small home-based businesses account for over 2/3 of all business licenses written in that county. So it is a staggering, it is of staggering importance for economic development departments to be cognizant of this key component of their county or city's economy. The question comes down to is, why do I have to waste my time with research? And unfortunately, a lot of times that's what ends up happening because there's just way too much information out there. And it is always changing. The system, it is dynamic. When COVID first hit, in the first 3 months of COVID, we saw a 10-year increase in online transactions. Everybody had to move online because their brick and mortar stores were closed. And so you need to know what you have to do in order to adapt to this continuously changing landscape. More important than that, you really need to know your customer. You really need to be able to reach out and talk to them and identify what's going to be their hot buttons. Back in my active duty Navy days, my last tour of duty, I was stationed in London, where I taught at the Royal Naval War College. And this is back before we had streaming and Netflix and things along those lines. And my brother would have to he had to snail mail us videotapes of the Super Bowl and football games and other sports events that weren't covered over in the UK. And at the time I was, I was going through my MBA, and I would sit and I would watch the reaction of the audience to the commercials that were coming on as we were watching them. And I had one son who was Generation X and another son who was Generation Y from a marketing perspective. I'm a baby boomer. And it was hysterical stuff that they thought was bust out loud funny. I could not see it whatsoever. Conversely, things that I thought were funny, my two sons would just look at each other. And, at one point they turned and said, "Dad, you really do need to get a hobby." The message just was not resonating with me. And if your message isn't resonating with your customer, you're not going to get sales. You have to know your competitors. I'm working with a person who wants to start a coffee and tea shop over on the Eastern Shore. And we have a research facility at the University of Texas at San Antonio that does very, very in-depth research. And so I just got the report back. I had 12 separate files of information I had to go through. But the one that really caught my attention was the fact that now the Eastern Shore is a very strange geography. It's extremely long and narrow. But in that extremely long and narrow strip of land, which is about 80 miles long, there were over 30 coffee and tea shops. And so this person is going to start another one. Well, where do they start it? Well, the neat thing about it was broken down by cities where these other competitors were located, and even gave us the addresses of the competitors. So we were able to build a dot map to see exactly where people are getting coffee and where they're not getting coffee, and provided that information so the business owner could make a decision. You have to validate your assumptions. You're going to go into business and you're going to be making assumptions about how much money you're going to be making, how many contracts you're going to be doing, how many turns of a table you're going to be doing if you have a restaurant. And now what you have to know is, what are the industry standards? And a lot of times people will overestimate their sales and underestimate their costs. And this is where having access to vertical IQ is so critical, as well as other databases, is so critical, because you can find out what the industry standards are, and then you can see if you conform with them. And if you don't, well, now we have to go do a deeper dive to see why exactly that is not taking place. Rather than try to do this yourself, let the experts help you. And this is where the SBDC comes into play. Not only are we experts because we can access so many different databases that I'll be going through as we continue our presentation, but we also know business. And we've been doing this for quite some time. And we also have a cadre of people that we can reach out to and touch to make sure that we're giving you the right information. So, use the SBDC. The great thing about the SBDC is there's three things. Number one, everything you talk about is completely confidential. Number two, there's no charge for our services since we're getting funding from the SBA, localities, and other organizations. And number three, and this is the most important one, it's totally non-judgmental. So you never have to worry about the reaction you're going to get from my staff as you talk about your business as it goes forward. Another reason to research, you're on the IRS radar, even as a home-based business. I was on the irs.gov website, and they have an entire section dedicated to the gig economy, complete with videos and YouTube videos and everything else, describing all the things that you have to know. If you are running an Airbnb, driving an Uber or Lyft, or doing something that would qualify as a gig economy, they are going to be looking for you to pony up your taxes. So you have to get into these tax centers and take a look. There's also a very good one that's been around for a long time on small business and self-employed. And the information there is absolutely invaluable. And if you ignore it, it really is going to be trouble. So you have to understand what your tax liabilities are as you go forward, what your record keeping requirements are, and what is it that you can deduct as the cost of doing business for running a home-based business. You'd be surprised at some of the things you can deduct, as a matter of course. Driving to an appointment, driving to see the SBDC, that's 55 cents a mile. If you have a home-based business in your house that is a separate room that's lockable and nothing else goes on there, in other words, it's not a guest bedroom when company comes over, it's not the children's playroom or the TV lounge, you can deduct that from your mortgage payments. or from your taxes, excuse me. Yeah, so it's good to get a handle on exactly what you can do to save money and what you can do to move ahead. Okay. Let's talk about vertical IQ. This is a fantastic tool as you go forward. The neat thing about it is that you can break it down by industry, and you can also break it down by cities and counties. And so, when you see the various, under categories, I can tell you exactly what the economy of Poquoson is doing. And a while back, I was asked to give a presentation to the Poquoson Planning Commission. And I dove into this and a couple of other databases, and I was able to give them some very, very solid, actionable information that they could use and move forward. Now, if you did this yourself, you'd be paying a lot of money to get into this tool. If you come through us, it's free of charge. Here's the Poquoson overview. And you can see, population and income, employment, business startups, residential real estate prices, home and rent price forecasts, and then a variety of web links. And then they give an overall what's taking place. And if you notice, home prices are going up rather dramatically. As from 12% forecast in the future, 7% they're experiencing now, and unemployment's only at 2.3%, where it was 3.5% last year. And you can dive in and do a deeper dive to find out more specific information about what is there. In Poquoson, if I recall correctly, the median age for the people living in Poquoson is 47.3 years. Well, that's both good news and bad news. And that it's good news because when you're 47, you have some very, very clearly defined shopping habits. You're not going out for trends and things like that as a teenager would. And so business owners have an easier time predicting what their customers are going to be buying, be it food, be it medicine, be it clothing, be it entertainment, whatever. You can really get a clear idea of exactly what they're going to be doing. The bad news is that who's taking their place after you turn 47 or later and you pass away? Who's going to be there to pick up the slack when your population either dies off or moves away to retirement villages? And so these are things that the cities have to take into consideration to understand exactly what's going on. I called up childcare centers just for a display. And you can see here, they give you a full industry profile. You can print it out. It's usually about 36 pages long, front and back. And there is a wealth of information. They do a very, very deep dive. And they can also sit down and tell you how much money you're going to be spending in all of the various areas. And they also provide an industry brief, what's taking place. And you find out that in the childcare business, the biggest issue that small business owners face is employee turnover. The second biggest issue is employee wages and salaries, especially now that, originally, the preceding administration passed a law mandating that the minimum wage would increase to $15 an hour. Well, I can tell you $15 an hour is now in our rearview mirror. I was driving up to Gloucester, to the Gloucester courthouse, and there's a Chick-fil-A right on the corner of 17 and the road into Gloucester. And they're advertising $17 an hour to start at this Chick-fil-A. So if you're a childcare provider, how do you compete against that? That's very, very difficult. And so you're going to have to figure out either you increase your costs, but at how long can you increase your costs before you drive away your customers, or you cut down in your services, minimize your expenditures across the board. And that's where we'd come in and we go through this and analyze it with you. And one of the neat things about it is that if you reach out to us, we'll go ahead and send this to you free of charge for whatever industry you have. Now, some of them may not translate. I was dealing with a real estate agent, and there was some on commercial real estate brokers and residential real estate brokers, but there was nothing that specifically got into the niche that this woman wanted to get information on. So I sent them both, and I said, you're going to have to do some figuring out as you move forward. And she understood that, and is working now to figure out exactly what she wants to do. So, as I say, the information is absolutely essential. We have some other tools that are available at the SBDC. Profit Sense is an amazing tool that gets into the RMAs, or risk management assessments. These are data points that CPAs have been collecting since before time began. And they can sit down by every industry and they can tell you what your revenues are going to be if you're a small, medium, or large business, and what your expenses are going to be if you're a small, medium, and large business, and what is the percentage of each area where you're going to have expenses. Restaurants, for instance, is very, very simple. It's 30, 30, 30. 30% of your costs are costs of goods sold, the raw materials you're using to process. Over 30% is going to be wages, and over 30% is going to be overhead. And so just by looking at that, we can tell you that if it's 30, 33, and 33, for every dollar you bring in, you're only making 4 cents in profit, because the other 96 cents has already been expended just to pay the wages, pay the overhead, pay the cost of goods sold. And so Profit Sense is an absolutely fantastic tool. IBIS World dives a little bit deeper, and they give you market reports, more of a bigger picture operation, but it's very, very valuable with the information they have. We can access that through our state office up at George Mason University. Ditto for BizMinders. It gives both financial and market analysis as you go forward. And then last but not least, there is SBDC Net. This is specifically tailored research. I have to go in and spell out exactly what I want to learn from SBDC Net. And to give you an idea, they have a new business research package, an established business research package, and each one of those, there are 5 or 6 tools that they're going to be giving you information. Business validation research, GIS, ring time, GIS, drive times, GIS geography. I mean, this is really, really great information. Now, the problem is that we have one research facility at the University of Texas at San Antonio, and that serves the entire country. So it takes about 3 weeks to get anything out of them. So if you're looking for a quick turnaround, this is not going to be the place to go. But if you're in the process of starting your business, you're not under the gun to make a decision as to whether or not to go, this would be a great tool to dive into. In addition to that, if you don't want the standard package, you can get a build your own. We can design one for you to give you the industry you want or the information you want. And here you can see new business research package, and you can see what they have. Business plan, startup costs, financial ratios, market statistics, and a competitor list. I mean, this is absolutely gold mine of information that you can tap into as you go forward. Now, I'm going to try one thing here. I'm going to try to go into the vertical IQ, and we'll just do a sample. Okay, coffee shops. And here you can see coffee shops and snack bars, coffee and tea manufacturers, yogurt shops, vending machines, specialty food, season and dressing. So a wealth of choices here. So we'll go into coffee shops and snack bars.
So Jim, this is Matt real quick. I think we're still seeing your presentation, so you might need to share your other screen if that's on a second screen.
Got it. Thank you. My apologies for that. All right, you have coffee shops and snack bars?
Yes, sir.
Okay, so here it is. And you can get an idea of all the information that's going to be going to you. Trying to get things out of the way here. A couple of things right up front. Some companies offer gift cards. Most customers pay with cash, check, or third-party credit cards. And that's important to understand because every time you do a credit card transaction, that's a swipe fee of up to 3% that the store owner is going to have to absorb as they go forward. And then we talk about the industry profile. Let's see, I don't want to print it, so I'm just going to how firms operate. And here they can take you through and show you exactly what's going to take place as far as operations go and how much time or what kind of revenue you're going to be getting as you go forward. They also have financial benchmarks. And this will give you an idea of the ratios we were talking about. For an accountant or somebody who's really into numbers, this stuff is rock solid information. And as I say, it's just fantastic data that you can use to predict how your business is going to go as you move forward. So let me go back to screen share again. So, the old adage in the kingdom of the blind, the one-eyed man is king. Well, you're going to be the one-eyed man as you move forward. So that pretty well covers it. I'll open the floor up for questions. Are there any questions, either in chat or anybody want to talk?
So this is just a reminder that everybody can enter any questions you have in the chat, or you can use the Q&A feature that you have as well. So Jim, I don't know, and Charity, can you see the questions as well?
I got them.
Okay.
Do we go through SBDC to register for Vertical IQ? And the answer is yes. You come to us, you become a client with us. It's a simple matter of going to the SBDC homepage, which is www.hrsbdc.org, and that'll be on the next slide. And you'll be able to click on request an appointment, and we'll go from there.
So it is appointment based. It's not something that you can go online and just look up industries or town something.
No, unfortunately, it is you have to go through the SBDC. We have the license for it. You could go to Vertical IQ and buy that, but it's going to be very expensive.
Well, I think SBDC would be especially helpful interpreting and understanding data, and probably very important to have that component of the answer anyway.
Yes, ma'am. I couldn't agree with you more.
So Jim, there's another question in the chat from Leslie. She's asking, so to get signed up with SBDC, do they just go online, or how should they do that?
Absolutely. If they go to the SBDC website and it's this one right here, hrsbdc.org. And they will be able to, on the homepage, you see request an appointment. You click on that. That takes you into our database to get you registered so we can track what we do with you. Once again, there's no cost for our services. And fill out the information. We will reach out to you and talk to you and start a relationship with you from a business standpoint.
Jim, the other things, Profit Sense, IBIS, Biz Miner, are those resources that you can go directly to online and obtain information, or is that information that SBDC obtains for you?
We have the license for it. You can go online, but it's going to be prohibitively expensive. They go by license. So
I go to and you say, all right, this is your business and this is where you're located. You will go mine all these different resources to come up with the answer for us. It's not a matter of us going online and researching ourselves, right?
that is correct.
Clarify that for the other sources as well. But like you said, that is worth a lot of money. We even in the localities have gone in the past to the state and our regional economic development organizations for similar types of data. And most localities, not all, but most localities really can't afford to become, and certainly not small businesses, to become paid subscribers to this kind of data.
Absolutely. The other place they could go if they don't want to come to the SBDC, usually colleges and universities, their libraries have or may have access to these databases. But I'm not sure exactly how you could get into it because that's normally restricted just to student and faculty use as opposed to the general public.
And alumni.
Okay.
I have done that. I've gone to local university libraries where I've attended college, and they do have. But I didn't really feel that, number one, all of it was current, and number two, it was not being familiar with it. It wasn't as easy to get in and search what you were looking for as somebody who does that on a regular basis.
Yes, ma'am.
Jim, another question for you. It seems like there's a lot that's very volatile in terms of pricing and, goods and services. What sort of advice are you giving right now to small home-based businesses as they're trying to navigate these waters and sort of figure out where things are headed when they're looking at not only their pricing of things going forward for the products that they offer and services, but how to adequately plan for increased costs that they may be seeing right now?
That's a great question because that is what every small business owner is looking at this point in time. You know your customers and you know what your customers can absorb and cannot absorb. You also know what your prices are or your costs are, and you know what you can afford and what you can't afford. If all of a sudden, for instance, if you're a restaurant and I'll give you a case in point. There's a local restaurant down here in Norfolk that my wife and I have as one of our regular stops. And they had a fried lobster ravioli and a lobster cream sauce, which was to die for. It's fantastic. And I came in and I ordered that, and the waitress said, well, you have to understand, it's going to be, there's squash. We had to substitute squash in the fried ravioli for lobster because it's too darn expensive. Now you're going to get the lobster sauce, which has chunks of lobster in it, but you're not going to get the lobster meat inside there. So they had to substitute. We're seeing restaurants offer smaller portions. We're seeing restaurants offer less expensive quality of meats. They're doing a wide variety of things. Maybe they are buying some items in bulk and then taking advantage of the bulk discount as opposed to having to pay, full retail. As a small business owner, you just have to know what your costs are and what it's going to take for you to keep your business afloat. You're going to have to know what your competitors are doing and what kind of prices they're charging and how are they reaching out to their individuals. And you just have to make some tough decisions. Back in the 90s, when the economy was a bit rocky, I had a gentleman who was our HVAC technician, heating, ventilation, and cooling, and super guy. He'd been with us for literally 10 years, and the costs of doing business got so high for him, he had to send a letter out to each one of his customers saying, the cost of gasoline has risen dramatically and I can no longer make a profit. So what I'm going to have to do is I'm going to have to put a surcharge on every bill I send you for a service call, and it's going to be $20. So just for the privilege of having him park his truck in my driveway, I had to pay $20 additional. And he finished up his letter by saying, I understand if, this is something you can't afford, or if this is something you don't find acceptable, and I'll be more than happy to recommend other HVAC repair companies to you. And I picked up the phone and I called him and I said, Bruce, you don't have to worry. I know exactly what you're going through. And so he addressed it right up front, and he relied on the fact that he had great relationships with his existing customer base so that they were able to say, you know what, $20 ain't going to kill us. We want to keep you on board. So those are the kinds of things small business owners have to do on a routine basis. I hope that answers your question.
Yeah, I think that's great. I saw Jameson put in the chat, you've heard this called skimpflation.
Yeah, I've not heard that one. I like it. I like it a lot. And yeah, that's exactly what it is, skimflation. You're trying to drive your costs down to bare bones.
All right, if anybody else has any questions, you can put it into the chat box or the Q&A.
And if you want, you see my email address on the screen. If you want me to print out a industry report for you, just send me an email and we'll go ahead and turn it around and get it to you as quickly as possible. One report per customer, please.
All right, Jim and Charity, I'm not seeing any other questions in the chat box or in the Q&A right now.
Okay.
Well, let me just insert a reminder here that for future Lunch and Learns, you can follow along and find out what's coming up next at the PeninsulaHBB.com website or Facebook page, and just be prepared for the next events coming up. Also, watch for more information about the annual HBB conference person this year, more towards fall, but definitely decided a date. It's October, November timeframe. And just follow along and be prepared to participate in all of these things, because we're doing our best to provide great information to everyone to benefit your businesses and help you grow. And definitely follow up with the small business development centers. look online for their free classes online, their free in-person classes,